Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. On today's episode of me talking about 7 things, I'm going to be going over toxic redemption. There are spoilers ahead and there are links in the description below that you all should totally check out if you have not already. Now we have another challenge in the Philippines. I believe this is the 4th one of the season. Is there going to be a spin-off there? Maybe, probably not. I'm usually wrong. It is specifically in Palawan Island in the Lake Manguao region, Manguao. And we have a cold open on day 16 where we see Chev and Trey eating something that causes their mouths and throats to be on fire, and we hear someone call for a medic. We see Andrew there, but we do not see Chad. And spoilers, Chad does tap, and the commercials before the episode and this cold open did not really help cover that fact, so that's very unfortunate. And we flash back to the beginning of the episode where we have our initial duos of Chad and Andrew, and then we have Trey and Chev. Chad tapped on day 10 of his last challenge, and his PSR is a 5.9, and he brings a blade. Andrew tapped day 9 of his fan challenge, and his PSR is a 5.1, and he brought fishing equipment. They are also given a pot and fire starter. Chev tapped from his fan challenge in South Africa. His partner wasn't super great and he overworked himself and had exhaustion and dehydration. His PSR is a 5.7 and he brings paracord. Trey tapped from his challenge on day 12 in Devil's Canyon. His PSR is a 6.1 and he brought a knife. Now, the two tribes start out on opposite sides of a lake and then merge on an island if they make it to day 11. Now, it's really interesting to see that Chev and Andrew had tapped on fan challenges, but they're coming back for a 21-day challenge as a redemption. I think that's great because they're both very skilled. Chev was trained by EJ Snyder himself, and I'm happy to see Trey back because Devil's Canyon is a location that is extremely difficult to survive in, so I don't know if anyone's going to be able to survive there. I would love to see EJ or Dan do it because I think they are individuals who can make it through. I would like to add Kai and Laura to that list. So I think they can do it. We'll see what happens. Now, Chev and Trey, they get a cast net and a fire starter, and they don't get a pot. And Chev says that they can use bamboo to get water. And we only see Trey use the cast net once, so maybe they used it later and it was successful, but they really wanted to emphasize Trey using it and it not going successfully, but that's unfortunate. The group's find coconut trees and they get their camps ready. Chad and Andrew make a raised platform with an A-frame roof and insulated with palm fronds and debris. Chev and Trey build a shelter made with 2 bamboo lean-tos connected by a crossbeam with layered plants and broadleaf debris. And it's emphasized how it's super, super hot out. It's like 108 degrees in the morning, so that's unfortunate. Chad works on the shelter and Andrew gets fire, and Chev and Trey work on their shelter together. They get lots of coconut water, and we hear about how Chev trained with EJ Snyder himself, so he's very knowledgeable. And he also makes bamboo cups since they don't have a pot. And then the rain comes and there's no roof on Andrew and Chad's shelter. Chev and Trey do have a roof. There's lots of bugs at night. And later on we see that Andrew and Chad have a good roof on their shelter and it's a really good shelter. Day 2, Trey goes fishing with the cast net, as I said before, but has difficulty. And then Chad and Andrew go fishing with the lines and hook, and they're both successful with their fishing. But we hear Chad talk about how the fish that they get are super scaly and super bony, so they need like 20 to get a decent meal. And then we see Chev drinking lake water because he really, really wants to stay hydrated, because he had to tap last time due to dehydration and exhaustion. So he is very laser focused on making sure he has water, but it's not really great to drink dirty lake water, but he seems fine. He makes it through the end. Spoiler alert. In my notes, I said maybe they could have dug a well on the beach and that would have been better. I don't know if they did that, but we weren't shown that. Chad has a difficult time with the downtime because he's thinking about home. He's a family man. He's a loving husband. He has a big family. And so he's talking about how when he has downtime, he thinks about them a lot and that puts him in a not so great mental state. It's similar to last time, but at least his hips aren't hurting. The race platform doesn't seem to be causing him that much harm, but him not being able to fall asleep immediately is also giving him a lot of downtime, and he's thinking and he's in his head a lot. And I also pointed out in my notes that he should be in a Fast and Furious movie because of all the memes where it's like, family, family. Where's Dom from Fast and Furious to be like, family? And Chad's like, family. And then they go racing across the Philippine wilderness or something like that. But I wanted to also point out that it was implied during Chad and Ariel's interview with Malu Beyonce and Debbie on Malou's podcast, Oh Heck No, that there was more to Chad's previous tap out than meets the eye, but there weren't any specifics given. But I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, something was happening behind the scenes that we weren't shown, and he had to leave, and it was very unfortunate. And now he's back to try to get some redemption for himself. But unfortunately, it being a year later might play into it, and maybe he didn't have the time to have those mental health exercises that would help him out. But I'm sure his thought process was, oh, they want me to come back a year later. I don't know if I'm ready, but if I say no, they may not ask me again. And he seems checked out on day 3 this time, and last time it was kind of similar, but he made it to day 10 last time. But I want to do a little bit of a rant because I've been having some thoughts going in my mind, and I just wanted to put them out there because, again, do not send hate to Chad in this scenario. It's very unfortunate that he tapped out for the same reason twice. If you want to skip the rant, please go to 8:37 and then you'll hear the rest of the episode. But I know at the beginning Chad was joking about how his wife said she'll divorce him if he taps out, but I think that kind of went out the window right away because Chad just really missed his family so much. And so, yeah, please be nice to Chad and send support to your favorites and don't send hate. He deserves some sympathy for trying to do this again and trying to get over the same mental hurdle twice. I support and root for anyone who wants to take on a redemption challenge and hope for their success. I don't know what mental training Chad did in the time between his first and second challenge, but unfortunately the negativity is getting to him. Is there stuff going on behind the scenes of both challenges that affected him? It's upsetting that he is unfortunately missing his family and that's affecting his challenge. Maybe he should have waited longer or said no. I don't understand what it's like to be on a challenge, and I'm sure when production asks the survivalists to return after a success or failure, they can't turn them down, or they feel if they turn them down, then they may not come back again. But I think he should have said no and seen what happened. I don't know what happened the first time and can only go off vague hints and what I'm shown on TV. He is a talented survivalist, a great fisherman, and a loving family man, which there is nothing wrong with that. It's great that he has a wholesome family dynamic, and I'm sure all his family loves him and appreciates him. But it looks like not many steps were taken in the mental fortitude department. He managed to catch a lot of fish, both challenges, and has the skills to make it through, but the mental attitude got him twice, the second time faster than the first. This should emphasize the need for a tough mental attitude, because one of the biggest challenges is the mental hurdles. There should be classes for the survivalists to learn methods of distraction or keeping a positive/tough mental attitude hosted by those with strong mental attitude like Shell. There have been many talented survivalists who've tapped due to mental health, so it's important to prepare yourself for that. Also, it is imperative to learn how to rest and not be work-focused all the time. Brett Schneider clan, please don't come for me. I think Chad is great, but this show isn't for him, most likely, because he has been missing his family both times, and so he may need some training to get through that. Words of affirmation before leaving, I don't know, but I think he should have taken longer before coming back. No offense to him. And Chad's brother Sean is going to be doing a challenge in a few weeks of recording, and I think, spoiler, I think he does make it through, so good for him. And I wish Sean luck, and I wish Chad luck with all his future endeavors, but again, I don't think this show is for him. And at least Chad got to go to South Africa and the Philippines. End of rant. Okay, now Andrew and Chad try to catch bigger fish. Chev is drinking lake water and likes collecting coconuts. He tries to climb a tree for them, but is unable to get them, but is able to climb down safely without hurting himself. Trey has an idea to use a bamboo pole to try to get the coconuts, but it's very difficult to maneuver, and there's not really a lot of communication with it, so the frustration is growing. Trey is annoyed about the coconut talk and attempting to get them all the time. Chad is struggling with downtime, but can't work that often due to the heat and is going downhill mentally. Day 5, Chev and Trey get snails. Chad continues to be in a negative headspace, and Andrew tries to be his cheerleader. Andrew does get a big catfish, but it seems they are unable to eat it because it is a little decayed and it was in the water for too long while it was unalive, and so they are unable to eat it. And day 6, Chad can't get past the downtime blues and being away from his family and decides to tap from the challenge. And for the third time, we get no closing narration from the narrator. There's no final PSR talk or weight loss numbers. Chad says the challenge is not for him, so this may be the last time we see him, except for maybe a flashback when his brother Sean is introduced on the challenge. I have no worries about Andrew being alone for a few days. I think he will make it through the end, or I know he makes it through the end, but these are my notes at the time. I didn't really worry about him. I think he could do the 5 days by himself very well. After seeing all the commercials, I knew that the 3 others would most likely make it. Day 7, Andrew talks about being alone, and he also gives some backstory about how earlier in the year his father passed away, and so he's doing the challenge for his father, and he's determined to make it to the end. Trey and Chev clash over coconuts, and Trey's like, every day it's the coconuts with you and I just can't take it anymore. And then they luckily talk it out and it's fine. And they all begin building their rafts for the merge. Andrew works on his raft on day 8. Day 9, there's more raft building with Trey and Chev wants coconuts. There's some more headbutting. Day 10, more raft building. Day 11, merge. And the remaining 3 get to the island. Andrew has a raft where he kind of holds onto it and there's a roof over him and he's kicking and he's not really sitting or paddling while Trey and Chev are paddling in theirs, and Andrew makes it to the island first and then meets the other 2. And then there are a lot of ants and termites, so a lot of the wood really isn't usable and the ants crawling around probably isn't very fun. We also get talks of centipedes, and later we get some talks about scorpions, and they are digging holes for a raised platform, and Trey gets stung by a scorpion on a sensitive part of his body, but he's fine. Day 12, the raised platform building continues, and Chev finds some yams, or lima lima, I believe they are called. Andrew wants a roof. The others want to prioritize other things. Day 13, the hunt for food begins. Day 14, they're still looking for food. They may have gotten some, but they aren't shown, and at the end, we kind of see one of the survivalists not really losing a lot of weight, so maybe they found a lot more food than what was shown, and we know that a lot of times they do find more food than what was shown, so I think they did find more food, but in the episode, we're not really seeing them find a lot of food. Day 15, the cold open is coming soon. What will happen? They are looking for more food. Trey finds some bait fish, and Andrew goes fishing. Day 16, they are looking for more food. Trey finds a tuber, but it doesn't seem to be a lima lima. Trey does the edibility/poison test where he rubs in on his wrist and it seems to be fine. And they boil it, and Trey and Chev try some of it during the night, but then they find out that their mouths are on fire and it seems to be a little toxic, and they call for medics. The medic comes down and checks their vitals, and they are stable. And it turns out that what they've eaten is elephant foot, which is edible but has to be washed completely. And I'm just thinking back to how Johnny ate some elephant ear and something similar happened, and Chev and Trey are eating elephant foot, and all this elephant named tubers and vegetables are just kind of kicking the survivalists a little bit. But Chev and Trey are fine, and they continue the challenge, and they're also told to drink a lot of water. Day 17 and the talks of modifying the raft come in because they need to build a raft and paddle a few miles to their extraction, but Andrew still wants a roof, and he talks about how he doesn't want a repeat of his last challenge where he got rained on and froze and had to leave the challenge. And unfortunately for him, he's outvoted, and they begin work on the raft. Day 18, they're still improving the raft. Day 19, there's more construction on the raft. Day 20, the raft is completed and looks really good and really buoyant. But then a storm rolls in the early morning of day 21. Andrew has an I told you so moment where he's like, we should have built a roof. And earlier, Chev was saying how since it's so warm there, a storm won't really take them out. And so that's why they continued working on the raft and not the roof. And many people online were saying, why don't they just divide up tasks? And I guess since they wanted to make sure that the raft was really good for extraction and they probably had other tasks to do, Andrew kind of put the roof on the back burner. But we get the survival kit, which is Andrew making a shower with a bamboo vessel. Now we cut back to early morning, day 21, and the 3 weather the storm and everything turns out okay, but Andrew's kind of annoyed, but everything's fine, and they wait for a break in the weather, and they use the raft and successfully make it to extraction after rafting for 2 miles northeast. Yay! Congrats to Andrew, Chev, and Trey for making it through the challenge. Andrew lost 20 pounds and his PSR goes from 5.1 to 6.1. Chev lost 10 pounds and his PSR goes from 5.7 to 6.4. Or was it 9 pounds? It was around there. But seeing him not lose that much weight in 21 days, maybe they were fed a lot more than what was shown. Maybe Chev ate a lot more coconuts and drank more coconut water than what was shown. And Trey ended up losing 24 pounds and his PSR goes from a 6.1 to a 6.5. All in all, the episode was fine. Congratulations to Andrew, Chev, and Trey. I don't know if the dynamics were quite as dynamic as the previous episode. I hate to compare because these are all different people, but going back, Andrew and Chris are great buddies, and so it was so sad to see Andrew leave, and Chris was very upset about it. Anthony and Danny had a really good partnership. They didn't butt heads at all. In this one, the dynamics were okay. Chev and Trey were fine, but there was a little bit of head butting during the challenge, and then Andrew and Chev kind of butted heads a little bit over the roof situation. And so it was kind of a weird dynamic. I don't think we really see Trey and Andrew interacting that much, but I'm happy for Andrew that he completed this challenge for his dad. Congrats to him. And I wonder if we're going to see them on maybe an XL in the future or a Last One Standing. Not this season's XL or Last One Standing, but maybe in the future. We'll see. And then I wanted to make a note about, with the lack of PSRs, we don't get weight loss either. And Chad had lost 30 pounds in the 10 days he was on his last challenge, and extreme weight loss can affect your mental health. So what if this time Chad also lost a lot of weight right off the bat and that affected him mentally? I don't know exactly what happened, but I just wanted to point that out. And again, please be nice to Chad. It was very unfortunate that he tapped. He probably should have waited longer, but who am I? I still think he's great. But again, I don't think the show is right for him. Maybe in like 4 or 5 years. But I wonder if we are going to get any more all-male survival redemption challenges. I wanted to point out some potential candidates for an all-male survival redemption because I can do that. I think Michael from the Kalahari Cold Front episode would be great. Joe M from Lisa's episode, the Cajun Mermaid, her first episode, her partner Joe, he unfortunately tapped on day 11. Maybe he could come back. Sean Harvey, Tara's first partner, can come back. Jason, who was Lacey's first partner, can come back. Marlon from season 17. Maybe Malik can come back. He's great. Dallas, who was Sean and Heather's first partner, who unfortunately tapped early. We could have Dave, who was in the first Montana episode where it was freezing cold and he tapped due to mushrooms. We could have Ryan Ekrit back, who was on XL6 but unfortunately tapped due to declining mental health. We could have Seth. We could have Kyle, who is Riley's first partner, come back. I know Seth may be controversial, but maybe he's learned his lesson about how to interact with others, and I think he does have the skills to make it through, or at least he has the ability to get to day 21 as he got to day 24 or 25 on XL6, so maybe he can go back. Even better, we could have EJ Snyder doing a mentoring with 3 other survivalists, including Seth, for a redemption. Maybe Seth, Michael, and Malik could all be mentored by EJ, where we could have Seth, Michael, and Malik insert at the same time and they're interacting, and then EJ makes his grand return. It would be great. But it would be great to see EJ come back at some point, and it would be cool to see another all-male redemption. I think that should be a staple, and then we could have an all-female mentor-mentee episode like with Kai and Gabby and Megan, I believe her name is, and Elise, where we can have women mentoring and then men seeking redemption and all that fun stuff. But yeah, all in all, decent episode. I will see you next week for the episode Schooled by the Jungle, and that's the episode with Mike and Sky. Thank you all so much for listening. I'm sorry for that rant in the middle. Please like, comment nice things, and subscribe, and click the next video if it's mine. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye-bye.